Mercy, you're in the last class, right? Mercy,
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
good evening. You're in the last class where we did registration pages and this admin page.
I
Am
was
I
so,
right?
but I could not
Oh,
stay till the end.
oh, what happened?
I slept off from the middle of class.
Oh, okay. So, where did you catch up to before sleeping off?
I can't even remember.
Ah, well,
Remember?
okay. I think that means we'll just go ahead and start with today's class, right?
Okay.
Mhm. So, in the last class, we were able to create wait. So in the last class, we were able to create this page. We added these two buttons, and then we added some messages and then a logout function. Now, in our project, a user can create account and log into the account they created. But then this is not, let's say you are working on an authentication system. This is not how you are going to leave your project. So today, what we are basically going to be doing is styling our project. So on styling and arranging our project to our taste, today we are going to make use of Bootstrap. Bootstrap is kind of a library, a style library that you can. Go ahead and make use of
So your
Bootstrap.
audio is. I could not hear you for like 10 seconds.
Okay. You heard when I said you were going to make use of Bootstrap, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I was trying to say that Bootstrap is a styling library. That is an already made library that we can just use in our project to style our project without going ahead to write custom CSS code. That is custom styling codes. So, and that is what we are going to be making use of today, as this is not, we are not in this thing HTML class. So, with that being said, let me share my project screen. Thing, the first thing you have to do is, let me close all this open and this thing. So we'll have a clean slate. So first things first, we like our platform to have a uniform design. That is, this page will not be looking like this, then the next page will be looking totally off. And to achieve that, we are going to have a single base file. That is, if that base file now, we will call it into any other page we are going to be working with to make that page adapt to the styling of that base file. So how do you create this base file? Within your template environment, within your template, inside this your template folder, create another file there, another HTML file. Create another HTML file and go ahead and name this file base.html. So this in this base file, this is where we are going to the writing. The name in my case, I'll be using block title. That is Python block filter. Do something like this. And then between here, you type block space title. And then let me say sys more authentication. This title now is what is going to be displayed on our project tab. Like maybe you are working on a project, you open a tab. On that tab now, when you are another underline, because we started the block without ending the block. So to make sure we are following the right rule, we now go ahead and end the block we open. To end, we just do end block. So that is it. This, we have successfully defined our title. So wait, let me close this so my listing will balance. So the next thing now is to import the bootstrap we are going to use. But before that, let me add kind of a scaling to this so it will adapt, so our projects can adapt properly to both mobile phones and the rest. This is a simple scaling, and to do that we are going to use meta tag viewport. So we do, sorry, uh, we create another meta tag. We already have meta tag defining the character set of our platform as, this is the encoding, that is the kind of encoding we are using for our project. This character set, we are using UTF-8. There are other kind of character set, but this is the default HTML character set. So we'll go ahead and define another meta tag. So we go ahead and define another meta tag, and go ahead and name this meta tag. Let me say viewport. So that should be the name of this meta tag. And then the content of this meta tag, that is what we want this meta tag to help us and do it. We basically need it to help us scale our projects, like across device, to adapt to device sizes, different kind of devices. So the first thing we have to do is say content, that is our page content. Width, we define the width equals device, which is the user's device the user is making use of. Width equals to device width, that is adapt to the width of the device. No matter the device, just adapt to the width of it. That is the, then we now, okay, sorry, not still within this quotation, we do initial scale. We define the initial scale equals 1. So with that, we've successfully told our project to make sure you're adapting to any kind of user, any kind of device a user is making use of. Then the next thing now is to import Bootstrap. the bootstrap I told you earlier, that is the library. So let me write something here. Bootstrap 5 CSS. So I'm going to comment this out. So, but for this comment now, we are telling the developer the kind of bootstrap we are using. Sorry, let me use normal HTML comments instead of this. We'll do something like this. Exclamation. So exclamation -2 space, and then come here and do similar thing without the exclamation, and then close it. So we are just basically telling the next developer reading this code that we are making use of Bootstrap 5. So that is what we basically did here. So I don't have the link to Bootstrap 5 CSS offhand. So let me go to Chrome. Let me go and browse it and copy and lift it from there. Perfect. So the latest version of Bootstrap is, according to Chrome, the latest version of Bootstrap, which we are going to be using, is Bootstrap 5.3.2. So I think I will have to paste this tag, this link tag in the comment section, so you guys will understand it. In the chat, in the class message, sorry, in the class chat. So right about now, I'll be posting it there. So I just pasted the link there. I don't know if you can find a way to copy it and paste it in your code, no problem. But let me go ahead and explain what you basically did there. This link is the way we import styling into our project. Let me say, for example, we have a custom CSS file in our project. Let me say somewhere in our project, we have a CSS file and want to import it. So what we basically do is say link, using link tag. You have to make sure that this your link tag is inside your header, sorry, inside this head tag. Everything here, including this meta, that inside our head tag, is very important to note that. So if I have a custom CSS somewhere in my code and I want to import that into this particular project, all I have to do is link. Then this href, like we discussed when we were creating the home page earlier, this href is basically for defining a link. So in our case, we go ahead and say, let me say we have a CSS file. We say slash the path to your CSS file, for example, static slash CSS slash style dot CSS. So this is underlining this thing for me because currently this part does not exist within our project folder. But if it says, if by chance this file was existing, it will just go ahead and import it into our project. With that being said, Bootstrap have the okay. Then this rel is we are trying to tell Python the kind what this particular file you are importing, what is for. We are telling that is a style sheet, like we are trying to use it in styling this page. This integrity is just a way that is just a way for because we are using an external link here. So this key here is telling the security system on Bootstrap, on this CDN, anywhere this link is from, is telling them, don't worry, this is secure. Just decrypt this particular key and use it for this thing, for authentication if need be. Though most of the times it's not needed. That line, this particular, sorry, this thing is not compulsory, so you can go ahead and remove it or leave it. But me, I don't usually leave it anytime I'm making use of external library. But for the sake of this class, we are going to be making use of it. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and create a simple nav bar. That is to make like a coordinated nav bar where all the buttons in our project is going to be. Using this, as we already imported this CSS file, all we have to do is use the classes already existing in the CSS class. So for example, this time around, you are not working inside your head tag. You are done with this head tag. You are done with this head tag. Now we are working in our body. So the first thing now is to define a tag named nav, NAV. Then you close this tab, click enter. So I'm planning to write, I'm trying to create other tags within this particular tag. So it's easier for me to just okay, using this for example, all these other tags are within this head tag. So that's why we are giving space here, so we can add all the tags and any other thing we want to add here. So the first thing we'll be adding, first let's style this nav function. So there is a Bootstrap class named navbar. That is that particular class defines what our navbar is going to look like. So we go ahead and say class equals with nav equals navbar space navbar extend. That is, we want the navbar to like to properly adapt extend, like we are using a large navbar, not just if we just use any navbar, it might just go ahead and use something like a short navbar. So to make this to properly make our navbar adapt to the page and to the user screen size, all we have to do is say navbar. All these functions are already written in Bootstrap CSS, so we are just going ahead to call it from Bootstrap. Expand LG. Then we are going to choose a theme for our navbar. I'm going to go ahead and use dark. Okay, we say something. Okay, sorry, let me use light. So let me use light mode. So we'll go ahead and say navbar. I'm not sure of this, but I think this is the right, this is it. But I'm not 100% certain. But let's go ahead. We will see it when we run the code. So we set the background to a light background, BG light. Margin, well, let's set a margin button. That is, we are going to add a margin between our navbar and and the rest of the page. So we say margin button, which is MB. What are we going to? And let's just use 4. I think 4 should do it. 4. Okay, 4 should do. 4 is the perfect pixel size to use here. So with that being done, the next thing we have to define a div tag. Div. So this tag, the class we need here is just a simple container tag. So class. Don't worry about the functions of this class. You all see them once we run our project, once we run our code. So here we do equals container. After this, then let's brand our project. This is where if you have a logo, maybe a logo image that you want to add to your navbar, this is where you can add it. But then, as we are currently working with like a simple design, we'll just use text for logo. So we say we use a tag because we are going to be making use of a link. We are going to be adding a link to this particular brand. So first thing, let me say Sysmo class. This will be the name of this. This will be the name we are giving to this our authentication system, Sysmo class. Then we just use simple navbar branding. Why I'm doing this is we have to round up quick before. If we are writing custom CSS, you guys will get like it's going to be too broad. Sorry, I forgot to define the class. Writing custom CSS is going to take up much of our time. So that's why we are making use of Bootstrap CSS. So what we need here is navbar brand. Mercy, hope you're understanding. Mercy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Not
Like,
fall asleep.
your screen looks paused though.
My what?
Your screen. It looks like your screen is paused. I don't know.
Paused?
It's just at one position. Like,
Seriously. And nobody have said anything. I mean, let me share it again.
Yeah, I was thinking it's from my end.
yes,
Oh,
same.
this is where I'm already. This is where I'm already at. It's
It was ever since.
so I have to go ahead and explain some of those processes again.
Okay.
So please, anytime my screen pause, you guys should tell me. I think my network is sort of poor today. So please, you guys should not hesitate to tell me. So here we define our navbar tag. That's our nav tag. And then we want our nav, we are trying to style our nav tag to use a light theme. That is why first we call the navbar class from this thing, from Bootstrap. This is basically telling our project we need this navbar to look like the navbar defined in Bootstrap, which is basically fixed at the top of your page, scroll and all those things. That is what we did here. But then, as we are doing that, we want this navbar to also cover the width of user screen. So our project will be properly adapt and balanced. So our navbar will not go and stop halfway. We need it to be large, like extend to the width of user screen. That is what we did with this navbar expand LG. Then we called our light function. Then we are using a light background, and then margin button, which is the space between navbar and the rest of any other tag. Between this nav tag and any other tag, we need the space between them to be 4 pixels. So we defined a container. This container will basically hold most of our navbar items. That will be the branding. So we are currently at the branding where I used an a tag for the name of our project, which in our case is, and I named my own I named mine Sysmo class. You can go ahead and name yours anything you choose. It doesn't matter. You can use your name here, but me, I'm using Sysmo class. So, but basically, you have to make sure it's short. Any brand you are making use of. Maybe if you want to make use of a name that is so long, and you know your name is so long. Okay, my full name is Onyebuchi Manechigbo, but if I write it like this now, it's going to take up too much space on our nav bar. So what I'm going to do is do something like this. OEC. So this OEC contains the full name of the full name I want to use, but in abbreviation. Or if you have an image, you can go ahead and use your image. Maybe you have a logo that you want to use here instead of a text. You can go ahead and do something like this. IMG. That is, this is the tag we use to import image. Then you go ahead and source. This source now, we are defining the path to where your images are. Maybe you have, okay, if you have an image in your project, you put it in a folder. If you have an image in your project that you want to use for your logo, you create a static folder in our root directory. So after creating your static folder, all you have to do here now is static, which is the folder that holds both your custom CSS, JavaScript, and then images. Static slash images, depending on what you named your path, slash /logo, and then the image listing, the image extension, be it .png, .jpg, or .jpeg. It doesn't, like, this is very important because maybe you might have a PNG file and you now go ahead and do something like .jpg. It's not going to display your image. You have to make use of the exact extension used for that image. That one aside, I don't have any image, any logo image I want to use here. So I will now go ahead and use Sysmo class. I will now go ahead and use Sysmo class. Then, after our branding, let me add a href link. That is, I want anytime user clicks on this particular item, I want to redirect them to home page. So to do that, all I have to do is href equals, you open and close your quotation, and then you use Django tag and filter, for URL. Go ahead and do something like this: URL space, you open a single quotation and then type in home. So what we basically do there, we are telling our project that anytime user clicks on this particular brand, take them back to our home page. You can put any page in your project, be it about us or any other thing you want, but as we are working, we just want this button to redirect us back to home. But then on to the next. We use another div tag. This time around, we want to create a collapsible thing, that is a kind of item that when you navigate or clicks on it, it will collapse to display the contents within it, the contents of like what it's holding. So to do that, what you are basically going to do is class, we use class equals to collapse. Use not all these names, you must not have them off heart. You can browse the what you want to use, like and then you can go ahead and browse what you want to, like the class you are looking for, what you want to use it for, and see cases where it's being used and how it's being used. I've used it for a long time now, so I have most of them off heart. In as much I've used it for years, I can't tell you I have all the classes off heart. So it's not compulsory, it's not a must to have them off heart. That's why you have the internet there. You can browse it and see where other users have made use of them. So the next one is, you say navbar collapse. This function now, we are trying to make sure, this is trying to, we are us trying to make sure that our page is responsive, that when on mobile devices, it to not just go ahead and display everything on the navbar. It will create kind of like a sidebar. Oh, okay, on desktop everything will display, but once we switch to a mobile device or mobile view, this section will collapse and turn into a simple sidebar items. But let's proceed first. We'll get to that in no time. Collapse. Okay, I just want to believe that I'm spelling all these classes correctly. So the next thing is to create a list, a HTML list of our items, or sorry, of our nav items. So to do that, we use a UL tag. Close it. So let's add our class. What is the name of this class? Okay, still navbar. Yes, okay, let's call it navbar hyphen nav. Sorry, class navbar hyphen nav, and then space ms auto and that. So next, we want to display user name and email. That is, there are some things we want to display if a user is logged in. We use this in our home page when we created our authentication system, where we did something like this and did if user dot. I believe those in our last class should can remember this particular thing and what it does. If user dot is authenticated, if user dot is authenticated, then if user is authenticated, what is this project going to do? To now that we want to display some stuff, some list. The first on the list, so to display a list, use li. This is the container for the list. That is what holds our list together. So li is the list itself. That is the contents of this container. So the first one here, we are going to use let's just display a simple hello 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 user dot dot username. Yes, it displays something like hello user dot username. So the next thing now is to style this particular thing. So to style it, we use nav item. That is, we are telling our project that this particular thing, this particular list is like an item on our nav bar. So we use something like this, nav hyphen item. So with that being done, the next thing we have to do is we put this our greeting in an A tag because we still want to display messages. Sorry, we still want to add link to our nav items. So to be able to add that link, we are making use of this A tag. So we use class, we define our class, which will be nav link, nav hyphen link, nav link. So then next thing is our href. Currently, we don't have many pages, so we just add an empty href here. So add an empty href, you just use asterisk. When user clicks this, it just refreshes the page because there is no link here to redirect to. So until if user is logged in, we are still making use of if user is logged in. Let me just copy this particular list item and paste it again, and then edit it to suit what we want to do. So still on if user is logged in, go ahead and then let's display logout. Our logout button. So, but this time around, we have in our last class we built a logout link, that is logout in our last class. So to do that, now go ahead and do something like this. URL, we'll now define our URL here. URL, that is our href link. URL log out. Let me be sure that this part is correct from our last class. So log out. Okay, we're on track. We're on track. So every other thing stays the same. So with that being done, what if now in a situation where user is not authenticated? That's where this else statement comes in. Else, that is, if user is authenticated, display this. But in a situation where user is not authenticated, that is, if no user is logged in, let me just go ahead and copy this list. So paste the two of them here. Change this one to login. Login. Change the href. URL. Change it to login. That is the login we created in our last class. So this one will go ahead and become register. Register. Change the URL as well to register. So I want after in HTML, if you are making use of Django filters like block and if statements in form of Django filters, anytime you define something, always make sure you end it, that is, you close it. Because if you don't, when you run your project, it's going to fail. So to end our if user that is authenticated, that is after this, you have to end it. What we are going to do now is just create a simple something like this. Just write code like this, end if. That is it. As you can see, the one in here left, immediately we added this end if. So that was what the project has been looking for since, and we just gave it to it. So with that being done, the next thing we have to do is we've closed all our tags. Yes. The next thing we are going to do is define the rest of the pages, that is the body and the rest of the project. That is, we just do something like this. Simple div. You come up, come outside your navbar. That is where you close your navbar. Make sure you are no more inside this navbar, this nav tag, but still within the body. So now under this nav, go ahead and create another div container, div tag, sorry. Then class container. So here now let's display messages. That is the messages in our project we built in the last class, where if user does carries out a particular function, display this message. I hope you guys can hear me. I hope everybody's following. Okay, good. So the next thing is to define our messages to make sure our project is making use of a uniform messaging pattern. We just do messages. So first call messages here. Okay, we did that in our last class. Okay, look at it. In our last class, we made use of if messages. I think we just have to no. Let's use, we are styling this time around, so let's use something different. Actually, my main reason is to look at how we defined the if messages in our last class. It skipped me for a second. So if messages, that is, you are telling our project that if messages exist, maybe there is a message to display. So what you are going to do next is write the pattern that we want to display that particular message. So in our case, we say we define another filter. Sorry, we make use of another filter for message in messages. That is, for every message in messages. So it will treat every single message as an individual message, instead of just treating, okay, it's a message, instead of just displaying everything together, it's treating it as an individual message, every message on its own, so one after another. So for message in messages, what we want to do is let's style how we want the messages to display. Let's make it a bit more beautiful than the last one that was just in the last class. It was just there. So to do that, we just do something like this. We use div. So we use something like class. Let's switch class. I'm going to use this time around. Class. Okay, let's use alert. I think alert should do it. Alert. Let's add message tag. That is, when we define our code, I showed you guys. Okay, let me just show you guys our views so you guys will follow this part properly. So we added these messages.success. There are other, okay, and also messages.error. This .success and .error is the messages tags we are talking about in this case. So we need to fetch the message tag because we will not display all the messages alike. So what we are going to do is fetch the message tag. We say alert hyphen message dot tag. That is the tag of that particular message. And then want this particular message to be able to to be dismissible. That is, it should not stay there permanently. We can remove it, and then it can also be able to live on its own. We add something like this: alert. I'm not sure this function name, the function I'm trying to use, the name is alert, but let's fly with alert first. I think that's it, but I'm not 100% sure. So alert dismissible, Yes, this spelling is correct. Dismissible, fade, and then show. So let's give it a role. Let's define the role here. The role we are giving here is role alerts. That is, this is the notification. So, now I know what I've been missing, because I know this have not been looking right to me. Sorry. So the mistake I've been making since is my spelling of alert. I know I've been looking at it and it appears wrong. So it's alert in this manner. So I think this should do it. So we set the role to alert. So on to the next thing is message. We'll now go ahead and display the message. That is the message here. For example, welcome user.username, your account was created successfully. That is what we are now going to display within this time. But does it end here? No. We now have to add a button in case we want to close in case we want to close the message by ourselves instead of waiting for it to fade away. To do that, we use the button tag. Also, in our last class, we made use of this button tag for submission of our forms. So this time around, the type of button we are going to use is button, not submit or any other. We are going to use button here because we are going to define the function we want it to do here. So the function is also defined in the Bootstrap CSS. So it's defined here. Class here is btn close. So the next thing is button, data hyphen button, that is buttons, bs hyphen dismiss is correct. Dismiss equals alerts. That is, you are telling a user that once this button is clicked, go ahead and dismiss alert. Oh, okay, it should be correct. I think 1 point. So area label, instead of going ahead to just write the name of the button, we just use area label to still write the name of the button. That is in our case, we use close. So the next thing we have to do is to close all these open filters so our project will not break. So the first thing we have to do is end for and then end if. So that is it for that. So we now have to define a function that no matter where we are in our project, once we define it, we are basically telling Python that after this, display our page. Display our page before any other thing. After displaying everything here, from here to here, the next thing we want Python to do is to display our page. To do that, we are going to be using block content. We are going to be blocking our page. So to do that, we do something like this. Block content. We are doing this thing, we are doing all this, we are going through all this stress in our base so that any project, we will not go through it again within any of our files. All we have to do is just extend our base into that file, and it will inherit the styling in base. That is, it will inherit the content of our base. So we now go ahead. Once you do that, you now go ahead and close this and end this block. End block. So once we extend this page once we extend this base into any file, the first thing it will do is, after displaying itself, it will look for this block content within that page, and then it will now go ahead and display everything inside the block content on that page. Anything outside the block content, it will exclude it because it doesn't understand that function. So it's not meant to work with that function. It will exclude anything outside the block function, sorry, the block filter, and proceed with any other thing we define on this page. So before, okay, we'll get back to adding scripts, but first of all, let me just create an empty script. Sorry. We have nothing for scripts now, so we'll just go ahead and just create an empty script tag. We'll get back to this later. This is where you call your JavaScript. But before that, let's now go ahead and okay, simple. So let's now go ahead and extend. Let's look for this project, all this our stress, whether there is any any impact. So to check, all we have to do is come to this our home page. On this our home page, we no longer need all these extra tags. We'll now remove them. All we have to, let me also remove them from here. All you have to do is make this page inherit our base file. And to do that, we say how are we going to do this? We just say something like, we first call our filter extends base dot html. We just extended that base. We just made this page inherit that base. And then if we run this page, it will just go ahead and display for us the content of our base without displaying all these informations here. Is there anybody that can tell me why? From what I explained in the base, is there anybody that can tell me why it's not going to display any other function on this page after inheriting the base? Any taker? I guess that's a no. So let's before we get to that, let's run our project and see. Let's run our project and see what we've done so far, whether we've made any impact or not. This is kind of the moment of truth. So when we go ahead and refresh, so this is our navbar. This is that navbar we created earlier. These are our buttons: login and register. So we'll get back to this in a few minutes. So this is basically what we've done so far. So as you can see, it excluded the contents of the home page. So just include the content of the home page. All you have to do is, let me share my code. All you have to do is to put all this our code on this page within the block filter. That is this block content you define here. Go ahead and do something like this, block content, and then come here and end that block, end block. So when we now go ahead and refresh our page again, let me share my screen. So let me now go ahead and refresh this page again. So as you can see, it's now displaying the contents of our home page again, but that's not where it ends. The next thing now is we have to make this home page, like, we have to make it a bit presentable. So to do that, let's go ahead and overhaul. Let's go ahead and overhaul our current but first let me block a title here. The title of this page, block space title. Oh, this one class. So we now go ahead and end our block. End block. So the next thing we have to do is, as usual, div. That is inside your block content. Div, enter. Then let's add something here. Let's add some class here. Let's add padding class. Let's pad the page so it won't be like the content of the page will give space, like it will have space around it instead of gluing to the to the wall or to the next content. That's what the use of padding, to give space within our project, so within an item and the next. So we are going to pad this div with simple bootstrap padding. Just say p-5. That is the space we are using between this thing, between the space we are using between this div and the wall of our page, or the next div is 5px. So we say margin bottom, that is the distance between our div and the next div. MB, let's use 4 again, just like we used in the base. And then we define our theme. We just extend our theme here. BG light. You can go ahead and use dark, but if you are using dark, then the theme of your project will be dark mode. Then rounded, just a little extra styling. 3. So Next thing is after this first div now is our main container. Within it, let's define another div that is a sub container, a container inside a container. So let's use container fluid for this class. Sorry, class container hyphen fluid. So we now go ahead and do padding on y-axis. Padding on y-axis is 5. I believe all of us plotted graph in secondary school, I guess. So you know the while plotting graph, you have your x and y axis. So we are adding this padding, that is this space 5px on our y axis. You can still, if you want to add, you can still go ahead and do px, that is for the x axis, but we are just using y axis for now. So let's define our first distance. Let's display a simple h1 welcome image. Okay, h1 welcome to Sysmo. So then let's style this h1. Let's make it should I say, okay, let's change the display class, change the display, and then after the display we'll now go ahead and make it the font width. We increase the font, we make the font width to be bold. So the first thing we have to do is display hyphen 5, then font width, sorry, okay, I'm on track, bold. So after this we have to define a p tag, but within this p tag this is not a p tag that we want everybody to see, just for users that are authenticated. So we are going to do something simple. In this case, after welcome to Sysmo, we say something like, we use if user dot is authenticated again. If user dot is authenticated, if user dot is authenticated, what are we going to display for this person, or what are we going to show to this particular user that is authenticated? Using a p tag, we do something like this. Let's style it a little. Let's add column. How do I do? Okay, what is trying to remember this class? Column medium. Okay, I think this maybe I think this is it. Sorry, like 7. Okay, we are going to make use of this column class, and then font size fs is 4px. So with this, what we just want to display in this p tag is a simple welcome message for logged in users. We'll now say welcome back, sorry, welcome back, comma, then strong. We are going to make use of this strong tag. I don't think we've used it before, to make a particular text appear bold. So we do something like strong tag user user dot user name. So so let's add a simple else statement. We can just go ahead and close this particular if statement. That is, if we don't want to display anything for users, for users that are not logged in, we can just go ahead and end it. But then let's just pity those that are not logged in and display a message for them and do something like this. Else then we open, let me say, an a tag, because you are going to, I think I missed something. Let me add a button here. Let me add a button here. So class for this button, let's use Bootstrap button styling, btn. So btn, that is button style. Sorry, but this btn stands for button. We are going to use primary button, which primary button is basically blue button. They have btn, they have other kinds of button. They have btn slash warning, which is for yellow buttons. They have danger for danger for red buttons, and they have they still have secondary. They still have other kinds of color, but I want to make use of primary, btn hyphen primary here. They have other sizes, but we are going to make use of btn large, because Bootstrap also have btn sm, that is for small, but we are using btn hyphen lg. So href. This is how to create a button without really going ahead and passing through the stress um, of using button tag. This is just a button, creating a button with a tag. So we now go ahead and define our href. In our case, you are the name of the button is log. Let me put space here. Log out. So that is it for a logged in user. Let me put this. Let me just add a tab here for best practices. So let's go ahead and now write for users that are not logged in. We are going to, let me just copy this a tag and duplicate it. That's the right thing to do. Okay, let me just do something first. Let me use a p tag to do something. P, do something like this. P tag, please log in. Yes. Let me see. Please log in. Or sorry, or register. Please log in or register. So we'll now go ahead and duplicate these buttons. So these are login buttons into so enter. One will be for um one will be for login, and the other one will be for log out, log in. Sorry, the other one will be for register. login, register. So to this register button, let me add kind of an outline. That is, instead of just using primary button, let me just use like, it will be kind of an empty button, but then it will just have line around it. That is an outline, the button outline. So instead of having a filled out button, you now go ahead and use something like btn outline, outline. Let's use secondary color and see the color they will choose for us as their secondary color. And then after this, you now go ahead and end the if statement. And if. So after all this, let's now go and refresh our page to see what we have done so far before we now proceed to styling our login pages. So let's refresh this page and see what we have. Okay, this is what we've now created. This is the progress we've made so far. So any question or any confusion so far? Any questions? So if you are following, comment following in the chat. Let me know those that are still following us. Let me know those that are still active. Can you guys hear me at all? Wow. Are you guys trying to tell me that nobody's still in this class?
No, sir, we are here, sir. We are here, sir.
Well, it seems you are the only one in the class at the moment. Maybe the other two persons are falling asleep. Nobody knows. Well, so
It seems like
the next thing we have to do now is let's leave them. The next thing we have to do now is style our registration page. Do you okay, you that is following the class, do you have any questions so far? Please, any questions so far?
no, sir. No, sir. I'll still need to go back and watch it. No, sir.
Okay, no problem. So let's proceed. So let's style the registration page first. So to style our registration page, all we have to do is apply the same method we use in home. Let me share my screen. That is extending our base. So let me close this. Fine. Let me go ahead and close this. Close this. And then open my register. So the first thing we have to do here is move this body. And then extend, then we'll now go ahead and extend our base as usual. Is base.html. Then go ahead and block our title. Block title. Six more register. End block. So next thing is our block content. Okay, good. Block content. So let me remove these messages, as we already defined messages in our page, on our listing base. Let's use H2 here. Good. So this before we start styling, let me go ahead and end the block. End block. So first things first, we already structured out our display, how we want it to look like and the rest. So next thing is to just start adding the styling. We are not going to change much, as we are calling our form fields directly from our forms.py page, forms.py file. So we won't be needing much changes here. So all you have to do is first, to your form tag, add no validate. No validate. So let's do something like, let's add space between this button and this, and between this function, between this div tag and the next div tag. So all we have to do is mb, which is margin button, space, is in class, not just like that, class mb 3, that is 3px. Then we add some codes to styling, to the label. First is class. Let's use form label, form hyphen label, form label, and then let's add another this thing, for equals, that is, we just add this to tell our project the input form this particular label belongs to. In our case, we use something like this for form.username, this username here. Now the username here, we are trying to tell our project that this label is for this particular input. So we'll go ahead and do form.username .id underscore for label. So then for this form.username, let's add styling to the input display. So we are going to be displaying it as widget. We are going to be displaying our form as widget. So to do that, we do something like this. We add a straight line as underscore widgets in brackets attributes. We are going, after doing this, we just copy it and paste it on all the other inputs. So we add an attribute for this. So we just say attrs attributes equals class equals class. Sorry, this class is in quotes. So form, this is the class we are going to use. The bootstrap class we are going to use, form control. Okay, let's close our parentheses. Sorry. So is there any this thing we've not closed yet? So I think that's it. We've closed all the required distance. There is something missing. I need to know the cause of this particular error. I think there is something I'm missing here, so I'm trying to. So I think let me paste this and let me check something whether let me refresh this page to make sure. Okay. So this filter we are currently making use of is wrong. So we have to find a way to make this particular filter work in our project. And to do that, I think we have to make a few changes to our settings, our settings.py. But let's do something else. Instead of doing it in that manner, let's do something like this. Let's go ahead and use input and type text name user name id user name, and then finally um class is form control. So let's comment this section out, comment this out, and let me refresh our project and make sure everything is working as it should before we proceed. So let's refresh this page again and see what happens now. So okay, as you can see, this username have taken shape. So let's go ahead and do that for the rest of the buttons. So the rest of the labels and their contents. So this one now, let me just copy this and then edit it for email. Sorry, my system is hanging. So for email, paste. Okay, good. Username. We change this to email. So I think that's it. And then you now go ahead and change this input to input type. This time around, type is email. Type is email. Name email. What next? ID. Email. Class form control. So let me remove this. Well, I'm going to leave these errors. I mistakenly removed the errors on username. This is just to tell, this error will tell us our the problem in case maybe after filling the form and submit and we encounter a problem. It's with the help of these errors that we are going to know the exact system that failed. So for the password, this password section might be a little tricky, but so to do that, We do something like this. Just see. So let's now go ahead and add the input for here. We go ahead and do input type. Here we cannot use text or email. Instead, the type we can use here is password. That is, so when we are typing, it will be hashing out whatever it is we are typing. Name will be password 1. ID will be password 1, and then class will remain form control, form hyphen control. So we now go ahead and remove this. It's no longer needed. So think something try to misbehave. Password 2. Okay. So now let's go ahead and input type, still password name password 2, ID password 2, class form control. Then now go ahead and remove this form input. Then finally, let's style our submit button. All we have to do, we already have the button, the type, and then all we have to do now is, and we just go ahead and add class to it. Class equals first btn, we make it, we use the btn class to identify it as a button. Then btn hyphen primary. That is, we are making it a blue peeled out button. So this method now also applies to, let's change the name here. This method now also applies to the login page, but we'll get to that. So let's refresh the page now and also go ahead and create an account to make sure our registration page is still working as it should. So let's refresh. So this is what our registration page looks like currently. So that password we added as type, that is the reason why this password, as I'm typing it, it's hiding. If we use text, as I'm typing this password, you guys should be seeing what I'm typing. But due to is that password is treating it as an encrypted, is treating it as an encrypted input file that the content does is not meant to be displayed to everybody in case of over the shoulder spoofing. When you be typing your password, someone will be peeping. So there is something I missed while adding all this thing. We stopped styling the div content, and I noticed the way the spacing in our divs is not healthy at all. So let's add the proper spacings. So we'll go ahead and add the class we added to the first div, to the first input div, that is the margin button tray. We'll go ahead and add it to the rest of the this thing. But it's not a must to use margin bottom. You can use margin bottom or margin top, that is empty. That is, instead of adding margin to the between you and the lab and the next this thing under you, you just go ahead and separate yourself from the one on top. But that sometimes it backfires. I think this one serves most of the times. So that is why it's commonly used. So you now go ahead and as you can see, everything is now properly spaced out. So let's fill out this form. So okay, so this is this message now is telling us that our message listing is working properly. But let's check the cause of this error. So I see our first page. Let me share my code again. So what we are going to do is come here, just add action. That is kind of href, but this time around the action we want to add. Let me create the pattern first and then go copy the correct part. URL. So what we need to copy is this part, this register part. So copy it and come and paste it here. So let's now go ahead and refresh our page and try registering again. This time around, let's check if it will save properly to our. So we'll now go ahead and should be then. Let's go. Password. So let's try this and see what happens. Okay. So as you can see, we created our account successfully. Welcome, Chidude. Your account was created successfully. Welcome to Sysmore. Welcome back. This is what we wrote, all those codes we wrote earlier on All those codes we wrote earlier on our this thing, what do they call it? On our home page. This is it. So is there any confusion so far? Or is there anything you don't understand? Please, please, are you following?
Yes, sir. I'm following, sir.
Okay. I
Sir,
think,
I have a question.
okay, ask a question.
Okay, it's just like it's just that space between that sign up and that password that you made that you put. It
Ask your
means
question, arrange.
I hear you.
I can't hear you. Well, go ahead, ask your question. I can hear you.
Okay, I said the sign up that space between that sign up when you were creating like your space, you didn't share the screen. So that's why I didn't get how you able to
You,
do it.
I don't. When I was creating it, I did what?
Like we didn't share the screen of the page here. We were only seeing the page, but we're not seeing the where the code was being created. We just
Okay. Okay, I did not share the code when I was refreshing the page. Okay. You meant this page, right?
yes, when you were in this page, at that point of signing up, you were trying to say that the space between that sign up and that password, there was like the space is too close. And we need to have a space. So when you now went to creating the code, this was the only page that was showing, but you were not showing us the
Okay, okay. Let me show you guys what I did. So you can mute your mic now. What I did, you can see my screen now, right? You can see my screen now, right? What I did was basically when we were working, when we started styling this page, I created this class. That is when I said margin box. With this particular class, the div in this our first div tag, and then went ahead and pasted it into all. With that, I spaced all the this thing. I added space between each tag, each tag and the next tag. The space on I added space under them with this class margin bottom 3px. Do you understand? Favor.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I get you now. I'm getting it.
Okay, good. Any other question? Okay. So I think I want to leave the styling of the login page as assignment for you guys. Do you think it's much, or you guys can handle that? Favor, peace. I can't hear you. Is it much, or you?
The thing is, it's not to know when to submit the assignment because currently now I'm fighting network and the rest of them. So and I'm still behind. So I just have to just keep following up so that I will not be left behind again. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to submit the assignment. That is my own issue, not doing it. When to submit it, that is the problem.
You can submit it like before, should I say Friday? Do you think that would be
Okay,
possible?
that's it.
Yeah. So for your assignments, you go ahead and style this login page using the same pattern we used in our registration page. Go ahead and style it, and then I will share an email account with with on the group chat. That's where you submit your assignment. So just style it with that same pattern and then submit it to the email account. Do you understand? Do you guys understand? Good. So is there any question about this class or from the class? Is there anything you guys don't understand or everything is we green? That is to say, you guys understood everything we handled in this class. So no problem. With that being said, that we've come to the end of our session for the day. So in our next class, I will not be styling this page again as it's already an assignment. There is no need. I believe everybody in this class will do the assignment. So will not be styling this page in our next class again. So that would be it. That's all for with this we have officially concluded authentication page. That is account authentication. We've successfully built our Django authentication system. Create account, log out, and actually display a few things. So that is it. Using this pattern, you can actually build a blog, but that's a very long topic though. But that's all for now. So you guys are free to leave the class. Good night.